The Easiyo yogurt making system is really simple, and I really love it because of the fact that you only need boiled water as an energy input. You don't have to have power, so you can use it in a large variety of situations. Now, this particular video is meant to be an add-on to the previous video that I did around about a year ago, showing you how to make yogurt using an Easiyo system directly from milk powder rather than the Easiyo bags that you can buy. They're pre-mix. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to it. Go and watch that because that shows you the method to use. But there's a few questions that have been raised and a few issues that can come up that I thought I should address and that might provide people some extra information. Now, some people have criticised the fact that I utilise milk powder and say fresh milk is much better. Well, that's true. If you have a cow, a goat or whatever to get your fresh milk from, certainly utilise that. My intent, however, is not to deal with that and how to use that with the Easiyo system. There are other videos that talk about that. I'm simply copying the fact that Easiyo themselves use a powdered system and that you can actually hack that, so to speak, and do it much cheaper than buying the packets from them. For anybody that doesn't have their own animals and their own fresh milk, milk powder as opposed to buying pasteurised milk or something along those lines, I think is a much easier product to work with. Simply the fact that you can use it at demand whenever you like. Now, one of the major issues that comes along is culture. Now, we generally start our yogurt from existing yogurt, so a spoonful of that in as carrying that culture forward. One of the problems that occurs with that is that when you're actually spooning it out, you sometimes don't use a clean spoon, and you can introduce other cultures in, some wild culture, so to speak, that will start to change the flavour. And so as it works on one generation after another, it can go either sour or develop some unpleasant flavours. So you need to reset it and bring it back to the pure original flavour. One way of doing that is to use a dried culture that you can buy, and you don't need very much of that. We use dried culture in this little container, and it doesn't take much of this at all, only a few grains on a knife to actually start off a litre of yogurt. However, the simplest thing that I've found is to freeze some freshly made yogurt that is tasting really good so that it has a nice pure culture in it, and to freeze it into ice blocks. Now what that means is that you then will have an ice block like this which you can start your yogurt with. Now what I find is that just putting that in there, half filling it with water, giving it about 5 minutes to maybe 10 to actually melt is all that's necessary. You don't need to heat the water or anything, just normal water temperature, and that will start your yogurt perfectly. Now you can use more than one, but I found one works quite adequately. So with the ice block in there, you just let it sit for a few minutes to melt. Now the other issue that I've had people raise is that sometimes their yogurt is a little bit lumpy using milk powder. If it's lumpy, it means that you haven't actually mixed it properly. Now, I usually shake it, but if you don't have a strong wrist and have arthritis issues or something like that, you may not be able to shake it adequately. So there's a simple way around that. What it means is to use a container like this. Now this does create a little bit more washing up and take a little bit longer, but simply allows you to do it. So put that in and then add the milk powder to that. Now how much milk powder to use? We like 2 cups, this is a half cup measure, so 4 of those, but 1.5 to 2 cups, depending on how thick you like your yogurt to be. So if you can't shake that, simply get a stick mixer and zip it up. So once it's nice and creamy, simply add it back into the container and then top it off with a little bit more water. That way you know that you've got the right amount and it's ready to make some really nice yogurt for you. Now, the only other issue that I've found come along is that when you are putting it in with the hot water, if the water is not hot enough and hasn't been fully boiling and isn't immediately put in here, that the yogurt doesn't get enough heat, and that can result in it being a little bit stringy. So if you're getting stringy yogurt, make sure the water is really boiling when you put it in. Put it in immediately and close it up, or even overfill just by maybe a centimetre the thermos. That way you'll put more heat into the yogurt. Particularly, I think that can be a problem in cold weather if it's in a cold room and so it's losing some heat. I think the system of freezing your yogurt and using that as the starter, you don't have to do that every time, of course, only when you want to reset the culture and come back to the original, is really good because it allows you to take a break. It also allows you to go on holiday and come back and start your yogurt fresh really simply. So hopefully that's been helpful to you and gives you a few more ideas as to how to get the yogurt working for you and have good cheap yogurt. So what do you think, Lucinda?
Yummy!